The Cuban Ambassador in South Africa, Fakri Rodriguez Pinelo, says Havana is fairly satisfied with just how South Africa has handled its G20 presidency. The ambassador just took over the position in one of Havana's key allies. SABC News Khayelihle Khumalo also spoke to the ambassador about a number of other issues regarding diplomatic relations between the two countries.
We are very excited to be here in South Africa. We are newly appointed, so we are still getting the hang of the things here in South Africa, but the history speaks for itself. Cuba and South Africa have had a long-standing relation for many years, not only in the supporting the liberation struggle in South Africa, but in other countries of Africa also. So from many decades ago, there were already Cubans and South Africa getting together to join forces. So we are building on that. That is our mission here. We think that we have to honor the vision of Mandela and Fidel for what our bilateral relations have to be for now and the future.
Certainly, Ambassador, and obviously these are very interesting times, Ambassador. I mean, we saw at the recent UN General Assembly where President Ramaphosa spoke about that embargo, calling for the world to make sure that the US stops what's currently happening in Cuba. And I would imagine that you do concur with that sentiment.
Definitely. We are really thankful for President Ramaphosa's speech at the UN in regards to Cuba. I mean, calling out the US blockade on Cuba is a very strong position. South Africa has always led that international position against the US blockade. So we're really happy with that. Of course, US blockade nowadays is having a big effect on Cuba. It's an unjust policy. It's unwarranted for. We think it's illegal. So every time the world stands with Cuba, as they did a few days ago in the United Nations, it's a victory. It's a moral victory for the world, denouncing this policy of bullying, or international bullying from the US, in which Cuba has had the worst part.
And obviously, Ambassador, when we look at South Africa and Cuba, I mean, whether you're talking about that Mandela Fidel Castro, the medical project, we have seen so many doctors being trained in your country. I would imagine also that there's quite a lot in terms of expanding the scope in so many areas, whether you're looking at technology and many other issues as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've had historical ties of cooperation in the medical field, not only with Cuban doctors helping the South African population directly here in South Africa, but also preparing South African doctors, more than 3,000 already in the few years. So that is a significant number. I think it's our main support for South Africa in the last years. But of course, we've had cooperation in other senses, also engineers, also teachers nowadays are doing some advisory work for the Ministry of Basic Education. So yes, it's comprehensive, it's big, and we are in the midst of opening up new areas. Science and technology, as you said, it's one of them. Very soon we're going to have good news regarding that specific area, but also we think that there's a potential of doing things in the biopharmaceutical area, in which Cuba has a strong point, and we have to offer a lot to South Africa on that area.
Ambassador, before I let you go, I mean, for South Africa, in a matter of few days, the G20 summit, a big one for sub-Saharan Africa, but also for Global South. And looking at South Africa's foreign policy and Cuba's foreign policy, I would imagine that since your ally is having this summit, you're also looking forward to the deliberations, especially in a very tough geopolitical environment.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think for South Africa, we have to commend them for how they have led the G20 group in the last year. We think, of course, South Africa is a global player. It's where it has to be in that sense. But also, South Africa has a very strong point with the South-to-South cooperation and developing countries. So in that sense, Cuba and South Africa have had an international alliance working in multilateral areas like the G77 plus China, also the non-aligned movement. So having South Africa leading the G20 role summit, for us it's very important also to have that exchange with South Africa.
All right, Ambassador, thank you so much for your time. Of course, that's Ambassador Pinelo from Cuba right in South Africa, talking about the importance of the bilateral ties between Pretoria and Havana, but also fortifying that particular relationship. Khayelihle Khumalo, SABC News, Pretoria.